3rd, ADAMLEE.
For all the other Lee's police officers too.
I didn't hear you.
For all the other Lee's police officers too.
Yeah.
Okay, well then we better use the 3rd.
Ray, what can you tell us?
Okay, we're pleased to announce that the Atlanta Police Fugitive Unit and along with the U.S. Marshals Task Force worked very diligently to bring into custody 4 individuals that we are charging with 2 separate homicides. One of them occurred on September 26th, and that was the homicide involving Miss Tierra Jones. She, along with 2 other people, were in her car traveling on Milton Avenue in the city when they were attacked in a brazen hail of gunfire from another car that was traveling on the same street. Ms. Jones lost control of the vehicle at the time and subsequently died and was pronounced dead at the scene. The 2 other individuals were transported to the hospital with injuries that resulted from the accident. Kelvin Watts and Bobby Hardy have been taken into custody and charged with murder of Ms. Jones and aggravated assault of the 2 other individuals. In the other case, which occurred on October 7th, Marcus Stevens was shot and transported to the hospital and subsequently died of his injuries. We have since taken into custody Rodney Gibbs and Kevin Reeves for the homicide of Mr. Stevens.
Major, back in the first case, do you have a reason for that? At the time, if I remember the story correctly, at the time somebody thought that maybe somebody else in the car was the target and she was just unintended victim?
Yes, we're investigating whether or not Ms. Jones was the intended target or one of her passengers. Ms. Jones, so far, we don't see any reason why she would have been the target of the attack. So our investigation is leading us towards the other 2 individuals that were in the car with her. She was basically, from what we can surmise, is that she was giving them a ride from a restaurant and on her way back to where they lived.
I assume this is not a stranger that these folks knew each other?
It doesn't appear to be that way. Like I said, there's still a lot of work to do. The homicide investigator has a lot of work to do on this case. So I can't really reveal some of the particulars. I'm not ready to reveal today because that would harm the integrity of the investigation.
Did the other 2 individuals have backgrounds that made you think they might be the target?
Can't really say at this point.
But something leads you toward them? Right,
we are investigating their past, their history, any connection that they may have had to the suspects.
And Marshall and Watts were arrested in that case, correct?
Yes, okay. Kelvin Watts and Bobby Hardy were arrested in that case.
What led you to them?
What led us to Mr. Watts and Mr. Hardy? Well, as you probably know, we did a Crime Stoppers story on this case, and whenever we do Crime Stoppers, we are actually inundated with calls. I mean, we have to filter through the numerous calls that we have to try to locate a good tip, and oftentimes we get a good tip and we follow that, and that usually leads us down the right road to the suspects.
Good.
Now she died of gunshot or from because of the accident.
That's one of the things I can't reveal. I have to not reveal that at this point. She certainly had injuries from the accident, which could have caused death, as well as gunshot injuries. But since it's still an investigation that has to be tried in court of law, we can't divulge that part of it yet.
What was the restaurant she was given a ride from?
I'm not sure at this time.
It was
in that area. It was in the area. It wasn't too far from where they were headed.
Is this Milton Avenue over in South Atlanta?
Near Turner Field?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And I somehow thought in the press release they mentioned a Gerald Marshall also. Did I get that?
I'm not familiar with that name at all. It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
So Mr. Watts and Mr. Hardy were both in the car. Which one was driving? You know?
No, Mr. Watts and Mr. Hardy, they were in the car that was where the gunshots were coming from. Yeah, we don't know that. We don't know that at this point.
Is that Hardy, H-A-R-D-Y?
H-A-R-D-Y, yes.
Do you have a birthday on him?
I'll give it to you.
Yes, we provided that information.
Good.
And can you provide, who was the shooter? Both
Yeah.
of them?
Don't
One of
know.
them?
Don't know.
And do you have any idea, any type of motive you can give us that might have been it? I mean, are they affiliated with any, social
That's
clubs?
a part of the investigation. We're trying to ascertain whether or not they have any sorts of friendships, associations, those sorts of things that normally come with the
Were there only
homicide
two people,
investigation.
were they the only ones in the pursuing car? Do we know that?
Don't know that yet either. Still, that's a part of the investigation.
You know what type of car they were driving?
No, do not.
We got them. That's the good news.
We got that. Okay, we just need a few more details and some flesh on the
Just gotta
bone.
fill it out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
The second case, can you give us any more particulars on the second?
The second case was equally as audacious. The subject was shot with a rifle, and he subsequently died from being shot in the lower abdomen at the hospital. And I believe there was another individual that was shot at the scene as well, but she did not succumb to her injuries. She received injuries, but she did not pass away.
Do we have a motive in that case yet?
Argument.
Is that Mark Harris?
No, that's Kevin Reeves and Rodney Gibbs.
You hear most of the time, especially in the city, that, it's a handgun. Rifle's kind of not the usual weapon that you hear. Is that
Right.
what really kind of set that one off?
Well, we're just starting to notice that is the weapon of choice oftentimes nowadays. More and more individuals are electing to use AR-15 assault-type rifles, AK-47s. It's not uncommon anymore to see that as a weapon of choice on murder scenes.
So which type of rifle shot him?
I'm not sure. I can't.
Was it that type of gun though?
Yes, it was a long rifle. Yes.
But was it one that's called appears to be an assault rifle?
Right. All of those are in that category.
Yeah.
All those rifles are in the assault. AK-47s, AR-15s are all in the same category and considered assault rifles.
The Stevens victim case, where did that occur?
That was on Wanda Circle.
Wanda
Circle in the city of Atlanta.
W-A-N-D-A.
Wanda, like the
Wanda
name,
Circle,
female
right.
name Wanda.
So there was no car involved in that. There was some street argument or something.
Right, and like I said, he was transported to the hospital with those injuries, and oftentimes those types of injuries don't appear to be life-threatening at the moment, but he did succumb to those injuries.
And he was Marcus Stevens?
Yes, Marcus Stevens with a P.
We got the age on
Did they
him?
know each other in that case? Did they know each other? You said it was a street argument.
Yes.
They,
Yes, we do believe that the suspect and the decedent had a prior knowledge of each other.
You got age on Mr. Stevens?
And I don't have it.
I'll give it to you.
Provide
I'll give it to
later.
And Rodney Gibbs, is it G-I-B-B-S?
GIBBS, yes.
And Kevin Reeves, R-E-E-V-E-S?
Yes.
All right.
Do we
Thanks,
know
guys.
if those two is the
Is
shooter?
there any information on
No.
the murder of Mark Harris? I mean, it was in the press release.
What was this now?
It's, fugitives
Second.
arrested Gerald Marshall for the murder
Yeah,
of Mark
that's what I was
Harris.
referring to.
This was in the press release.
Okay, maybe, okay. I'll have to get back with you on that one, because that's totally different from these two that I'm speaking of. That's another homicide.
Right.
Right.
I was just verifying because it was in the press release.
Okay, okay, all right.
What's the status on the investigation on that homicide 2 weeks ago today over on Mary Street?
Actually, we are making some headway in that case.
Okay.
I can't go into details at this point.
Because
Well-
we had the video, y'all gave us the video, and we put it out there. and I just-
Right.
Okay.
We did a Crime Stoppers on that, and as a result of that Crime Stoppers, and you putting it on the air, we have been making some headway in the case.
And that's a Bobby Hardy's, the H-A-R-D-Y or I-E?
Hardy, yes.
Major, on Kelvin Watts, can you talk a little bit about his background, particularly his background just a couple of days before this homicide?
Mr. Watts, we're investigating him. Our gang unit is heavily involved in that, as they do any of our investigations. So we have partnered up with gangs. Our homicide investigators and our gang unit investigators have partnered up in every homicide this year. so far to communicate and make sure that we're sharing information just in case any of our suspects may have gang ties, or even our victims of the homicides, if they are as well involved in any type of gang activity. That way we can build relationships and show us if there's any associations whatsoever between the victims and the suspects, or anybody else that may be out there that may be suspected in other crimes.
My question is going more to the revolving door complaint. Isn't it true that Kelvin Watts had just been released like 4 days before this incident occurred?
I'm not familiar with that part of it, but I know that's something that we've been really paying a lot of attention to. Our violent repeat offenders unit has been working diligently to track that and to make sure that the federal agents, federal agencies know when we have subjects that have been basically what you just said, going through a revolving door, so that we can try to put a stop to that and get these guys some time, as opposed to them just going down and getting a slap on the wrist and being back on the street.
And he had served, apparently, according to the data on the crime network, he had served about 7 months from a probation violation, an ag assault, a weapons charge. All this is in the background of Kelvin Watts. He gets released on the 22nd of September, and then you have an incident on the 26th.
Right. Well, like I said, I'm not familiar with that particular part of his history, because as you know, we have quite a few suspects out there. But like I said, our VRO unit that's one of the things that they're concentrating on, and they are reporting this to the powers that be, such as the judicial folks, the judges, and the courts.
Okay. Good.
Thanks, Mike.